Gabriela on the scene today with Talk Network Radio. We have a real treat for you just around the corner, and that is Empowered Living with Jeff Byrd. Jeff is the owner of Jeffrey Byrd Coaching, and he will be coming to you weekly to teach you more about empowered living.
Hello and welcome. This is Jeff Byrd of Jeffrey Byrd Coaching, and this is Empowered Living. I'm so grateful to be with you today. I'm so glad that you tuned in. I've got a topic that I think is going to be of great value to you. The more I think about this, the more I talk about it, the more other people have been resonating very strongly that, oh yes, I need more of that in my life. I wonder, have you been feeling fragmented lately? I heard someone in a conversation mention that the other day, and it really rang true that is something that's very much going on with a lot of us. We feel fragmented. There are too many needs. We're pulled in too many directions. We're trying to do too many things with too little resources, and we're feeling discouraged. We're feeling just kind of directionless. We're kind of just pulled all over the place and not really fully present in any of those places. Not like our whole self, our whole true self has shown up and is ready for the task. We feel tired. We feel guilty for feeling tired. We feel like we shouldn't feel that way. You know, we should be up to the task and helping others, but it seems that there's too many needs and, again, too little resources, whether that's human resources, our minds, our emotions, or too little finances, or too many other of those tangible type resources. It just seems like the need outweighs the provision. And we feel tired, we feel drained, we feel fragmented. So the name of today's talk is called The Power of No. The little two-letter word no, the power of no. Because what I found is that no, to be able to say no to something that's asked of you, can be one of the most freeing words in the dictionary. You know, freedom can come from what you say yes to, but it can equally come from what you say no to, because to say yes to the right things, the things that really make you your best person ever, you've got to say no to a whole lot of the wrong things. And sometimes the wrong things aren't bad things. They're just not your thing. I learned this lesson the very hard way many, many years ago. I was a young man. I had just come to see Jesus for who he was the first time, and it was like, wow, this is heaven come to earth. This is, everybody else is trying to get something out of life or some way. Here's this man that's just given to everybody, feeding people, healing people, just curing them of all sorts of things. It's like, well, this man has everything to give, you know, and he just does it endlessly. I was just amazed. And so what I did what I thought was the smart thing to do. I went to church. And what I found was I lost that wonder. I lost that sense of him caring for me so much. What it ended up being replaced with was everything wrong with me that I was constantly aware of. And then this mountain of need. There were needs all over the place. There were needs for the hungry in other countries. There were needs for this and that and the other. There was need for a Sunday school teacher, need for a young life leader, need for and I volunteered. And I volunteered, and I volunteered, and I volunteered. And this went on for about 13 years until I ended up at a very low point, very discouraged, feeling very much like a failure, where I thought if one more person asked me for one more thing, you are going to see my picture up at the post office, or I'm just going to go jump off the end of the pier into the bay and just be done. It was a low time. And I became completely burned out in this religious realm. And I know many, many people for whom this has happened. And then you feel guilty because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not even aware of my needs because I'm supposed to always be focused on other people's needs. And we say yes to everything when inside we're screaming to say no. I need some time to myself. I need to be restored on the inside. I need to get reconnected to being loved by God. Number one, knowing that, hey, he's happy with me apart from anything I do. He loves me. He forgave me everything in Jesus. He made me his. I'm his. He's happy about me. But boy, it didn't feel that way. And this kind of need, this doesn't just apply in religious circles. As many of you know, I've got a background in the healthcare arena, and there's so many people that I've run into who are so dedicated and they mean so well, and they just give and they give and they give and give until they just hit a wall, and they hit that wall and they don't even know how to stop. They just keep going. They're scraping the bottom of the barrel for resources, for emotional resources, for mental resources, for physical energy resources. And there are many people, and they deeply care, but they do not know. They know how to care for everybody but themselves. Everybody but themselves. I remember many, many years ago, a mutual friend, this is when my mom was alive, a mutual friend ran into my mom in the grocery store. And I remember mom told me later that she made the comment, everybody liked Jeff but Jeff. And Jeff didn't ever think he had done it. Didn't think anybody was ever pleased with, and could not say, hey, I need something. I need some downtime. I need a break. I need somebody to listen to me for a change. I need somebody to care, and just didn't know how to do that. And there's so many of us who have trouble with this in one way or another. Maybe it's we just volunteer for every project that comes up, volunteer to help anybody who asks for help, or to volunteer for a project that's helping them. It's just, we just don't know how to say no. And there's a number of reasons for that, and I'm going to get into some more of them in future episodes. But one of the ones I want to talk about today is just when no is the appropriate, respectful response. We don't have to be mad at people for asking us. Of course, they got their projects. They're trying to find help and volunteers, or whatever the issue happens to be. We don't have to be mad at them. We just have to say, no, there's something else, and we don't have to explain it to them. But on the inside, go, no, what this is that I'm after, my purpose, my calling, even my rest is important. And they may not understand that, but we need to say that for us. So here's a few times that no is the appropriate, respectful response. And that is when you're asked to do something that is not in alignment with your vision. We've only got a limited amount of time here. And if we've got a picture of our vision, of what we're meant to be, of what we're meant to do, a calling, you might say, and we're always doing everything else that everybody asks of us, but we're never getting to our thing, how are we ever going to make any progress? How in the world, if they don't share that same vision, how are we ever going to get there unless we say no to the things that suck our time and our resources and leave us not able to move forward toward that vision? Another time when no is the appropriate, respectful response is when something is not your responsibility or calling. There are many, many, many good things in the world, but that doesn't mean they're all your responsibility. A friend of mine used to tell me I reminded him of the big statue of Atlas up a little bit from where I live on the corner of the European Health Spot. He was carrying the world around on his shoulders. I mean, man, here's this guy, and boy, just he thinks everything's his responsibility. He thinks he's got to be the solution to it all. Wow. What a wake up call to realize that, hey, that's not it. I need something. I need the things myself. If we don't eat on a physical level, we're not going to have much energy to put out for a while. We got to have a good diet. Same thing on the emotional, same thing on the mental, same thing on the spiritual. We've got to have a good diet in order to do the right things. And sometimes a lot of people just ask us to do things that either aren't our calling or it's not our responsibility. It's a need, to be sure, but it's somebody else's. I love the little man that used to say back in the day, he used to say, a need does not constitute a calling. Only God constitutes a calling. And so we kind of got to work that out sometimes. What exactly are you saying to me? Who exactly am I? What exactly are we doing here? And let me tell you, it can take some time for that to get clear, because so many people are so busy with so many other things that they want to draw us into that it can be really hard to get that vision of our own. But it's there. Let me promise you and assure you, it is there. Jesus promised that if we ask, if we seek, if we knock, we're going to find the answer. It will be given to us. The door will be open. We will discover it. He said, but just don't give up. Just keep asking, keep seeking, keep knocking. That door's going to come open if you persevere and don't give up. That the exact right thing for us, the thing that God's given us that nobody can trump or tell us we're doing the wrong thing. He's going to bring it about. But we can't just run around so distracted all the time and expect to get that. Another time to say no is if we're doing something to make others happy at the expense of our happiness. And I don't just mean a blissful glee, escapism kind of happiness. I mean something that we just don't have any joy in it. It's just not on our hearts. It's no joy. We're not really happy. We look back on it. We're like, we don't feel glad that we did it. Now, sometimes something might be difficult, but when we get through it, we feel happy that we did it. It reminds me of the guy, he said, I don't like to run, but I like to have run, right? It's not pleasant at the time, but we feel glad that we did it after the fact. So it's that sort of thing. That's the kind of happiness I'm talking about is, I'm so glad I did that. That was so the right thing to do. And sometimes it's taking some rest. It's caring for yourself. It's not always giving until you've given everything and you have nothing left to give, because we cannot give what we do not have. We have to be able to receive first before we can give. And then another time that it's appropriate to say no is when something leaves us feeling used and unfulfilled. This is kind of the opposite of happiness. Have you ever done something just because somebody asked you to do it, and at the end of it, it's like, oh, that wasn't fulfilling. I can't wait to go home. I can't wait to get out of here. This just isn't me. It's not what I'm good at. It's not my strength area. And I actually feel a little bit used, actually. And this can even happen in good things. You feel like I just did that for the other person to make them like me, make them happy with me. And wow, I don't feel like it was the right thing. I don't feel that was fulfilling for me at all. It's not something that I feel glad I did. And here's an issue that I want to bring up, and that's that people who find their value in others' approval have a tough time with that last one. They must learn to find value in who they really are and the contribution they are gifted to make, not in another's response, even if it's favorable. In other words, some people call this people pleasing. We give the response we give because we're trying to please people so that they'll be happy with us, and sometimes it's because there's been a real lack of that in our lives. We've really longed for that. We've longed for approval. We've longed for people to take joy and take pride in us. And sometimes it can really be tough, especially if it's somebody we respect, to go, no, I don't really think that's for me. Even when they think it is, and even when we admire them, we want their approval, but we may not be able to get it. But we say, no, what I'm meant to do and what I need right now is more important than making you happy. Not that I want you to be unhappy with me, but I don't want to lose myself and who I'm made to be and who I'm meant to be and what I'm meant to do just trying to make you happy. That can be really tough. A lot of caregiving personalities fall into this one. They're caregivers. They learn to give care. Sometimes they're the child in the family that ended up caring for everybody else, when really what should have happened is there should have been somebody caring for them. But they ended up having to be the responsible one. They ended up being the go-to person. I was doing a training session with a team of caregivers not too long ago, and there was this one woman, and she had always been the one who took care of the family, did all the shopping, did all the cooking, did everything. Now, that might be okay when you've got some younger children, but her children were now grown-up adults, and every time they went somewhere or did something as a family, those guys wouldn't do anything. They waited on her to do everything, and everybody, guess what? Everybody had a good time but her. I had that happen to me too when I first got a house, and would invite friends over, and boy, I would do all the cleaning, all the shopping, all the cooking, all the serving, all the cleanup, and then by the end of the night, I was like, it only took a couple of times of that, and I was like, wait a minute, everybody's having a good time but me. At the end of the night, they're all happy, they're all joyful, they got to have all these great conversations, and now here they're leaving to go home, and I'm exhausted and broke. And so I stopped that real soon. I was like, okay, I don't want to quit getting together with people, but yeah, I'll bring a few basics, and y'all, everybody bring something to share, and then help me clean up. I'm not doing all this work. So we have to figure out ways to work that out. And something that one of my favorite authors and speakers, Patrick Lencioni, once said is that if everything is important, then nothing is. And I think that's so important to remember. If everything is important, then nothing is. We have to have those goals that are in alignment with our purpose and our vision. And we have to learn to discern when something is not that right thing that's helping us move forward to what we're really here for, what really brings us fulfillment, what really utilizes our gifts to really help others, and when we need time down for self-care away from everybody. We have to learn to discern that direction and to discern those times. And when we do, and we can say, no, thank you, love you, wish you all the best in that, but no, that's not for me. I appreciate you asking, but I can't do that right now. And you don't have to give a big explanation either. Some people just want to give this huge explanation to explain to others. It's like, oh my goodness, don't do that. You start giving those kind of details to other people who want something, they'll argue back on, they'll pick those details apart and they'll argue back and try to find fault with each of them. Sometimes it's just best to say, no, not up to that right now. Nope, too busy for that. And I don't care if you're busy taking downtime. Going and sitting on the beach sometimes is the best thing you can do, and it's exactly what you need, and it does not matter if anyone else understands or not. Absolutely doesn't. So here's a few more triggers of when to fire the no response. Because we need to learn to pull that trigger and fire the no response. And so again, I touched on this. Number one, when the suggestion is not in alignment with your purpose, when it might be a good direction, it might be something good for somebody else to do, but it's not in alignment with your purpose. If you step aside from your purpose to do that, not only there's nobody else who can fulfill your purpose, so that gets undone. And the other thing is you're depriving the person who would have been the right person of doing that. You're taking that job away from them, and nobody's fulfilling the job you're meant to do. So don't do that. The second thing is when the suggestion violates your values. Each of us have core values, things that are deeply meaningful to us in this life. And if that suggestion isn't in alignment with those values and like truly your next step forward, then don't do it. Don't ever compromise your values on that. And then number 3, this one I think is so important. When the suggestion to do the suggestion would leave you feeling drained and unfulfilled. You can be deeply physically tired in something that you should have been doing and feel fulfilled and not feel drained. Your body might be drained, but on the inside, you're like, wow, that was great. I'm so glad I got to be a part of that. I'm so glad I did that. If it doesn't leave you that way, if you're not happy you did it, if it at least doesn't give you a sense of, wow, that was the right thing to do, even if I don't feel tremendously excited about it now, I'm fulfilled that I did that, then I highly suggest that you think about saying no to that, pulling that no trigger. And number 4, when the suggestion leaves you feeling that someone used you to do what they and others should have done. There are people who are good at this. There are Tom Sawyers all over the place who get their buddies to whitewash the fence for them. And that's what they should have been doing. So if that's the case, if you end up feeling like, wow, they just used me to do something they needed to do. That wasn't my job at all. That was their job. They just didn't want to do it. So they talk me into it because I say yes too easily. Then pull that no trigger. Number 5, this one is super important too. When the suggestion isn't the best use of your time. Many people will be hit with many, many, many requests. And the question is, which one of these is the best use of my time? Because time is one thing that we cannot get more of. None of us know how long we're going to be here. But we know that there's only a limited amount of time that we have. So what is the best use of our time? And if something is not the best use of our time, you can't get that time back. Time's like money. Somebody said, of course, you can always get more money, but you might have a single dollar bill and you can spend it any way you want, but you can only spend it once. So be very mindful of that with time. What do you want to leave behind to this world? What do you want to contribute? What do you need to become that person? And then what do you need to do that's in alignment with fulfilling it? And invest your time there. And sometimes that time includes rest too. Time for processing, time for digesting things you've heard, time for thinking through things, especially in seasons that are very difficult, like this past season's been. Taking time to think about that, to process it, just to give yourself a break because change has been coming at us so fast and furiously. Number 6, this is when say no, when saying yes would be merely to appease and please others. Forget about that, because what you'll really teach them, they won't really be happy with you. What they'll really think is, oh, I can get them to do what I need them to do, what I want them to do. And so what you'll do is you won't really gain a healthy respect. I've heard people say no to some things that surprised me. I've actually said no to some things that surprised me. And what I ended up gaining for the others and myself was a sense of healthy respect. It's like, oh, they know who they are. They know their purpose. They know what they need. And they say no to everything that isn't that. And that deep respect comes in there. And then the next one, and this is the last one, is say no when you are in need of care. And here's the thing. Do not wait for others to recognize it. Usually by the time other people recognize and go, hey, you doing okay there? You've gone too far. Now you're outwardly manifesting and everything. The time to care for yourself, to take that time, take the time to be alone, take that walk, spend some time in prayer, spend some time in meditation, spend some time looking at the water or the trees or whatever restores you. For me and my wife, it's bird watching. We love to go do that, to be in an outdoor, beautiful, natural area. Every scene is one that has never occurred before or will never occur again. It's new every minute. That's the beauty of walking out of your house. Everything in the house is just like you left it. And you go outside and it's never been that way before and it'll never be that way again, and it changes every moment. To me, that's highly restorative. But recognize when you're in need of care and time away yourself. And don't wait for others to recognize it. Some will never recognize it. You'll be burnt out and gone and dead and buried, and they'll be like, oh, wow, really? Well, he must needed some help. Boy, he had a problem. Don't wait for them to recognize it, and don't wait for others to start, the ones who are a little more sensitive, to start noticing it. You recognize it on the inside, and when your heart's not into something, when you need some time alone, take that time, because others may never recognize your needs. They're only focused on getting their project resolved. Don't try to please them. Think about the greater good. And you can't give what you don't have. Don't think there's anything wrong with taking the time you need to get back on the level ground, back to get the information you need, to get the renewal that you need. Fallow ground, that's where they don't till it and plant it every year. They cycle it. And part of the cycle is fallow. That soil produces the best plants in the following season. A flower never blooms in every season. Don't think you always have to be blooming. Recognize that, hey, it's okay to have a season. There's always high tide. There's always low tide. There's always day. There's always night. There's always summer and fall and winter and spring. As long as we've had a recorded history, it's always been that way. So no season lasts forever. The down season doesn't last forever. The renewal season doesn't last forever. And the spring season, the blooming season, the sowing season, or the harvest season, they don't last forever either. Those things are cyclical. And recognize that and have grace and kindness to yourself, and recognize what season you're in and what you need in that season, and learn the great power of saying no. Again, I'm Jeff Byrd with Jeffrey Byrd Coaching. If you'd like to get in touch with me, I'm at jeff@jeffbyrdcoaching.com. Bird is with a Y. Again, jeff@jeffbyrdcoaching.com. I'd love to hear from you. Shoot me a message, ask questions, bring up a topic you'd like me to talk about. And thank you so much for tuning in today. And until next time, God bless you.